And Helise, who do you connect with UVA?
Jim Henderson.
How does that make you feel when you ride by grounds and you know your ancestor had something to do with the buildings there?
It makes me feel proud to know that my ancestor was a part of the building of the University of Virginia, and it makes me even prouder now that the university is reaching out to find the ancestors of the enslaved laborers there so that future generations can understand how they were an integral part of the building of the University of Virginia.
Historically, and my family's experienced this, oftentimes the community is second to the university, right? The university takes actions and doesn't consider the community, but that's changing.
I think it was about time, and I'm very, very happy that the memorial is being built on grounds. I want the students, the faculty, and the staff to stop and think that 99.9% of everything that was built in the United States was built by slaves.
Over 10 years ago, a group of UVA students proposed creating a memorial to acknowledge and honor African Americans' contributions to the academical village in its early years and over time. The project responds to a deep need to address an untold and uncomfortable history while building community. Join us as we learn about the UVA Descendant Outreach Program and Memorial to Enslaved Laborers. Come on.
We couldn't just show up and start knocking on doors and say, hey, are you a descendant? Can we tell your story? We weren't in a position to do that. We looked at it as we have to sort of get our own house in order first. And this is not an end, it's the beginning.
I grew up coming to UVA, and I had never heard any mention of slavery as it related to the university. And I think UVA is at the point now where it honestly does want to examine these harder histories and talk about it and talk about the implications for the community.
My goal is to get as many or find as many descendants of the enslaved laborers from my list as I can. What UVA did, which is fascinating, was take a look at the ledger books, which means this is where money would have been paid to hire.
Right.
And so, yes, so all the enslaved laborers were rented to the university to conduct their jobs.
Well, and while you're doing your research, I mean, it can be very challenging. Oftentimes you have one name, a first name only.
Yeah.
So talk about your process. How are you doing this?
I go after the local resources first and the local people.
Right.
A lot of the names are familiar to me because of where we live in Central Virginia. We've got Monticello, we've got Highlands, we've got Mount Pelier, and other significant things besides the University of Virginia.
Right, so local, one would be being at the Historical Society.
Absolutely. We're at the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society, which has a rich collection of local family histories as well as significant things that connect with UVA and, say, the plantations in the area.
And you visit the courthouse, you can research there. Do you ever visit cemeteries?
Oh, absolutely. I break for cemeteries, which is a popular bumper sticker. But actually, the local courthouse, your historical societies, your libraries, and find if there's any genealogy groups in the area and things like that.
And you'll connect in the community. You'll be at different community events where you think, okay, this is a great opportunity to connect and ask some questions and let people know what you're working on to see if that stirs up any interest or helps to provide answers.
Well, that's where social media has come through.
And then talk about that, because now that we have social media.
Yeah, social media, what we did is set up a Facebook page, and it's called Finding the Enslaved Laborers at UVA, and so, which has been just great success. So it's people looking at it all over the place. So I post names, I post situations and things like that, or ask questions, and then I offer tips also on the research, because it could be the person sitting at home not sure if their family was part of this or not, but at least they have information that can help them lead to the research.
Designing the memorial was very interesting because all the elements that people sit down and said they wanted to see, and having the design team actually put those into building the memorial and actually seeing what it was going to look like was really interesting and a lot of fun.
In some parts of the local community, the university is known as the plantation or the big plantation. So it's a really complicated relationship. And we understood too that it was go out into the community, listen to their complaints, their concerns, their suggestions, come back, think about what we were going to do, but before we did anything, return with, okay, we listened, here's what we're doing. And it really tried to build a process that was this kind of shared dialogue.
A group called the UVA Idea Fund stepped in to write a report about the various individual efforts related to slavery at UVA and presented to President Sullivan, and she formed the President's Commission on Slavery in the university. One of the outcomes of the commission is the memorial. There are many other recommendations too of the commission, so we don't see it as this is where this work ends by any means.
The biggest thing that we try to accomplish is making sure that we are including those voices in the conversation, that they're driving the conversation, and that we're able to honor the community wishes that have been present for generations, but now that we have the memorial, can really be front and center.
Can we look at some of the research, what you've discovered?
Sure. So typically I start off with paper. And before I hit the computer, so I gather things from books or resources or files, and then I go into writing down a process of who's the person, when were they born, when did they die, so I'm connecting that time frame. So I start off with the slave owner, if I have that name from my list. Right. As an example, I had an Addison Maupin and a Socrates Maupin. Of course, I'm not familiar with their names, but I know the Maupin name because of a friend of mine has a company called Maupin Town.
Right,
and
right.
So that was familiar, so I started working on it, and I thought, well, how do these two gentlemen connect? And so I started doing research on, like I said, the slave owner family, because they're listed as that, and then who their children are, and location is also critical. So I also have the enslaved labor. Like Addison Maupin, I have 3 enslaved individuals. There's no last names. I just have George, Henry, and Charlotte. So that means I have to focus on the Maupin family as the white family to find out where their inventory records at, where's the estate records at, where's the will, the probate, because an enslaved person is property. So you're going to have to go find the property records.
Right.
So with that common name Maupin, I went through to find out, okay, so I'm going to have to take the local family with the Maupin name and trace them and come up at least to 1940, because that's when the census stopped for now, that we have public access to. And another key is to get to 1870. And 1870 is critical for African American research because that's the first census, population census, that has names on it. So anyone that had been enslaved prior to that now has a first and a last name. It might not be the slave owner's last name because only about 15% actually took the slave owner's last name.
Dr. Murphy just recently informed me that I'm a descendant of enslaved laborers at the University of Virginia on the Maupin side of my family. So for someone to come to me and to have completed some research that I have not seen before is shocking, and it's exciting, and it really rejuvenates me and makes me want to go find out more.
When Shelley came on board, I think we all had expectations that, you know, we would find a few names here and there. And the work that she has done has been so amazing in terms of not only the research aspect, but she's out there just talking to people every day.
I'm descendant from the Hughes line and from the Hemmings line from Monticello. Whenever you walk through an area that you know your family and your ancestors have been previously, it sort of takes on a new meaning before when you didn't know. You look at things a lot differently. You're always wondering, what were they doing? What were they seeing?
Talk about the vast significance of this project and this memorial.
All my years of researching and focusing on slave era research, well, there's not enough done. There's not enough information that's shared. The stories might be at the family level, but they need to be told, because I don't think that people have a true understanding of really what happened during slavery,
Right.
and what happened after slavery. But as a descendant of a slave, I say that I'm a success. I'm here because somebody made it through slavery. And so I think that's another important fact that families and young African Americans especially need to know, that they're from a surviving bunch of people. And I'm saying a bunch because we can't even count the numbers.
There'll be 4,000 names on the wall, but there will be spaces left for more names. And so what are your hopes once people discover this, that people can do on their own? What are your hopes for going forward with this?
That I walk into that memorial and I find my ancestor. So I'm walking, to me, it would be like sacred ground.
What has been the response from descendants that you've found and spoken with? What are they thinking?
They're surprised. They knew they were local, but maybe they hadn't gotten that far back in their research.
Right.
So it's a welcome opportunity on both our parts to be able to keep researching, and there might be something that I know or how to research a way that they haven't been exposed to yet to get back to their slave ancestor.
One of my great-great-grandfathers that was a part of this, he died on the same date that I was born, and on his death certificate it lists that he is buried at the family farm. The farm is still owned by the family today, and one of my aunts lives on that property, but no one has known that until now.
It's an important time to be at the university, and I think seeing the efforts that the committee has made has been pleasantly surprising. So there's trust formed, there's bonds that have been formed, and those are invaluable, especially as we enter into this difficult conversation around race, the history of slavery at the university, segregation, and so forth. And that's been great for me to see and witness that even behind the scenes there are bonds that are being formed and will continue to last after the memorial has been built.